opinions expressed on Carter's Corner are entirely independent of the opinions of Radio 89.7 FM's Wise Board, talented management and wonderful sponsors. Carter's Corner respects the right of each individual to hold and express an opinion unfettered by the shackles of political correctness and without fear of quivering in the quicksand of cancel culture. Radio is for entertainment, not censorship.
All right, the time is 7 minutes past 6, just because the boss says I have to say the time all the time. Awesome. And welcome back, got him, to Carter's Corner. So
it's so nice to be here. It's nice that the moment I walk in the studio, you have a go at me. I love that. Thanks, mate.
Why not?
I feel loved
Why not?
and appreciated. I really do.
Just sorting these levels out here, a little bit all over the shop. Been a while since I've been on this board. Awesome.
Oh, I'll tell you what, mate. You're on the chopping board tonight. Trust me.
I know. Oh, I'm feeling the pressure because we do have a very, very special guest with us today. We were supposed to have a real politician last week, but they never showed up. So We've actually got an actual genuine politician here. He's got notoriety, we'll say, for absolutely annoying the mainstream media to the point where they have actually cancelled him.
Now, before you actually announce him, I will just clarify for everyone out there, it's very important. The room smells like Glen 20 now because we had to disinfect Parliament House off you. We had to get those dirty, smelly people off you. The stink of corruption, we had to get rid of it, mate. I'm sorry. The sleaze.
I can still taste the Glen 20. It's rancid, like to say the least. So
with that, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah, so we've got the Leader of the Opposition here, Charles Smith from the West Australian Party.
Hello, thank you, and good evening, everyone.
Awesome. So first of all, massive thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
It only took me like 6 months to get him in, but that's okay. No, it wasn't 6 months. It was like
it was
6
a slow
minutes.
burn.
Yeah,
Slow burn.
So today we also have returning the one and only live from Victoria. He'll be coming up in the next hour. Mr. Topher Field, all the way from sunny old lockdown Victoria.
Oh.
So,
tell you what, he just needs to get out, really, is what the problem is.
Yeah, no, but he's under like house arrest.
Pretty much.
I'm surprised they haven't put, those what are they called? You break into someone's house and the cops don't want to send you to jail because there's no more room left in the jail, so they put those little bracelets on you.
Oh, ankle bracelets.
Ankle bracelets.
Yes,
I should have guessed that one. So he'll be coming in later today, and we also have a new show coming up in the last hour. Our one and only Elaine is going to be hosting the first ever Conspiracy Corner.
Ooh, that's going to be spooky. Now, we should also mention, not 2 hours anymore. We've grown up. I'll tell you right now, we've moved to another hour, starting at 6. And we're going to be on air till 9 tonight. Fantastic, mate.
Oh, I'm stoked. It just shows that I'm annoying enough people, which is awesome.
Very popular show. I don't know how, but it is.
Oh, no, I'm super, super stoked. So, and the producers don't get really, really angry at me because I left my little notepad away.
Of course you
I think it's in the living room, not the living room.
We're not at home anymore. Okay. We're not in Kansas anymore. Okay.
We're not in Victoria. We're not working from home. So, so we are going to, what's the time? No, we're good, actually. We can go straight into this. So, Mr. Charlie Smith, Leader of the Opposition.
Yes.
That's a bit of satire there because the Liberal Party is absolutely MIA at the moment in Parliament House. Give us the feedback. What's going on in Parliament House? What's big things working on at the moment? How is life in Parliament?
Well, as you doubtlessly know, we're coming to the end of this 40th Parliament in the next few weeks as we Parliament is going to go into prorogue. It's going to be prorogued, is the expression, when we get ready for the next election. So we're just bringing things to an end. We're racing through the government's legislative agenda. We're trying to get rid of all those bills. So that's what we're doing. We're super busy. We've just gone through the Work Health Safety Bill, which I pushed through for the government. I thought that was very, very important to give workers that extra safety in terms of so-called industrial manslaughter. So that's done and dusted, and we're just ticking down, really, waiting for the election campaigns, which I'm sure are going to be very dull.
They're going to be very dull, absolutely. Look, with the election, it's only a few months away. I mean, what's your feel? What's the word on the street, so to speak? Well, actually, not the word in the street, the word in the bubble. What's the word in the bubble?
The word in the bubble is Labour are going to romp home easily. And the big fight is whether the Liberal Party will lose more seats or retain where they are now. And I think the real battle in the next Parliament for those who sit in opposition is going to be the makeup of the upper house,
Right.
or the Legislative Council, which is where I sit. And I guess those in opposition are concerned that should Labour win more seats in the upper house, then they will have complete and total control of the Parliament.
And this is a big thing for me. I'm very pro smaller parties, quite frankly, simple as that, because we want the balance of power to not be controlled by the narrative. And when you've got Labor in power, or you've got Liberal in power, look, they just they tell everyone how to vote. Okay, everyone who's in there, boom, they know how to vote in the morning. Whereas when you've got independents in there, you can actually make a difference. I think that's a really big thing to sell to people. People need to know, vote for your minor parties. My opinion, obviously.
Yeah, I would somewhat agree, of course, being in a minor party, which is, I'm in the Western Australian Party, and I represent the Eastern Metropolitan Region, and I'll be running for that seat again in March next year. I think it is incredibly important that minor parties are represented in the Parliament, and I think it's imperative that they hold checks and balances on what the government is doing, and they can force the government on occasion to re-examine what they're doing and propose alternative amendments to the laws they're trying to bring in.
Absolutely.
I think that's incredibly important.
Now, what we have had just come through, obviously for the long-time listeners out there, you can send through any questions you may have for the Honourable Charles Smith.
No, we've met him. He's not terribly honourable. Let's be honest. Yeah.
We try.
He is, I was going to say a fake politician, but he's a real politician that actually still has his soul. He hasn't sold it yet.
Look, you may call me a fake politician, but I'm a real person.
And to be frank, that's probably more important. But we did have to disinfect you just to be sure.
Anyway, getting back to the point is we do have a request line where people can send text messages in to ask the Honourable Charles Smith questions, or if they want to hear songs in our interludes, they can send through requests. So the line is 0418 897 897. That number again, just in case you missed it, 0418 897 897, as Mr. Malloy would put it. So we have had a question come through. It's more of a statement, actually. The safety bill will damage businesses in WA, as businesses will just go elsewhere. Ask him to explain the bill.
Explain the bill?
Oh, I don't think we've got 4 hours.
Well, it was a huge bill. It was a complete reworking of the occupational health and safety.
Why don't we summarise it then?
So really, I guess what the caller or messenger is talking about is the so-called industrial manslaughter clause, which was the so-called controversial piece of that particular legislation. Look, I will always support Australian workers, right? I think Australian workers have had a bum deal for many, many years. And it's about time that legislation was updated to offer more protection. I don't think it's particularly that onerous for employers to make those additional changes to protect workers, particularly in the construction industry.
So what fundamental changes are we talking about?
Well, the changes are around the penalties and fees associated with industrial manslaughter.
Okay.
Should somebody die in the workplace, from what they call gross negligence, then there is associated penalties of jail and large financial fines.
So imagine that, genuine consequences for someone losing their life. What a great idea.
Well, my party thinks so, and that's why we supported the bill.
Yeah.
I have to say, as an ex-roof tiler, back in my teens, falling through the roof and landing on concrete is not the most enjoyable thing, and knowing that there's going to be safety
and I think,
measures.
in fact, right here up in Joondalup, we had that collapse of the glass atrium, right?
Yep.
And someone else died there as well. So that's what we're talking about.
I know. I think a lot of workers in the construction industry will be very happy about this, but I think a lot of bosses who like to cut corners, they might be a little bit upset.
Look, when you go to work every morning, you have a right to go home to your family. It's as simple as that.
Of course you do.
So, I don't like overreach of government, simple as that, but I do like them putting in the proper procedures and the proper steps to protect people in their workplace. Simple as that.
Absolutely. I can't disagree with you.
All right, fantastic. So, moving on, because we do have a couple of minutes before we have to go to some messages. What is one of the things that you want to pass before preschoolers goes on holiday? I mean, Parliament House.
In terms of the legislation agenda from the government.
For West Australian Party, what's something on your real person agenda?
Something I would like to see done.
Yeah, what would you like to see passed before holidays?
Well, look, I'm very much into protecting Australian workers and putting Australian West Australian workers first, right?
Mhm.
That's why my party exists. We prioritise West Australian workers in front of Eastern States workers or international temporary visa holders, particularly in this time of scarce jobs. I think it's very, very important that we put West Australian workers first. It's as simple as that.
I don't think there should be any time related to it. I just think full stop, always government should be putting West Australians first, foremost, and the workers.
If you're a West Australian citizen, then I think you should come first.
Absolutely, because when you're employed, you're contributing to society and you're giving yourself the best opportunity in life. Simple as that.
Easy.
Yep. You know what? I'm a little bit hungry. I think I might get into some lollies.
Okay.
Oh, how's that for a segue? We don't go to a few messages, but let's have a chat about some lollies and what's been going on in that one. Oh,
I see what you did there.
it was terrible, wasn't it?
Just-
I love it.
Oh,
Anyway, so
thanks.
we do have the Honourable Charles Smith from the West Australian Party here. His not official title is the Leader of the Opposition Leader. Because let's be honest, Liberals are just non-existent now at the moment. So we're going to go a couple of songs, quick message, and then we will be back to discuss lollies and shavers. So you're listening to Carter's Corner on 89.7. Yeah.
Oh, dear. You know what?
I had
It's
to do
like
it.
working with children and animals at the same time, really. Travis.
You forgot babies. So
course I
Carter's Corner. Carter's Corner with Travis Carter, your host, Aaron Malloy on the other side of the desk because I forgot to introduce him. And the Honourable, still with his soul, opposition of the Leader of the Opposition Party, aka the West Australia Party, all the way from smelly old Parliament House, Honourable Charles Smith.
Good evening, everyone, once again.
I get told off when I say
I know.
welcome. He's all right. He's a politician. He can get away
Well, the
with
great
it.
thing about, the people listening to the show, they don't go anywhere. They are locked in. I love it. Because
Yes.
they actually care about their community. It's
No, there's just Mount Gowan's locked the borders again. Mark McGowan's locked the borders again. Okay, so having a bit of a chat off
We've
air.
all got a name for him, but okay.
Play nice. No, we were going to talk about lollies, but you know what? Something a lot more fun and a lot more moist came up.
Okay.
Water tax, aka water rates. So we had a question coming through from I'm not sure who. I think the guy's name was Travis. Having a bit of a bitch and a moan about. Yeah, it's my question. Get over it. I don't know about you guys. My water bill lasts by months. I think they call it every 61 days. My water usage was $40.
Right.
And my rates was $180
Yeah, that wouldn't please me.
every 2 months. Now, I've had a bit of a chat around with a few other people in the office here and neighbours and stuff like that, and they're getting absolutely shafted the same. And so, why not? We've got a member of the parliament, upper house person, does all those little committees and expenditure committees and chats and how much tax we should charge everyone. What's your thoughts, Charlie?
Well, look, let's just get a few things straight. I don't decide how much tax people pay. That's the government's role.
Aren't you the
and I am
government?
not in the government, nor will I be in a Labour government, ever. Anyway, look, I think all our utility bills, not just water, are outrageously overpriced. And as people, we are being fleeced by the government and these organisations which provide these services. And it's always been my view that Australia, being a land rich in mineral wealth and natural resources, we really should have the very, very lowest utility bills possibly in the world. I mean, look at all the gas we have, look at all the water we have. Perth, albeit, has a water need which is done via those damn things. Desalination plants, and there's talk of another one being built soon. I mean, that's not cheap, right? They're $1 billion a go.
Doesn't the government just keep selling them to China and other countries?
I don't think so. They definitely sell pipelines, gas pipelines to Hong Kong Chinese companies. That's for sure.
Yep.
But we should have the cheapest power bills here. It's just ridiculous, and there should be ways and means by which that is addressed. And if you want to talk about water in particular, Watercorp, which of course is a government body, I think in this last year made around a surplus of $800 million.
Wow!
On top of providing those services,
Mr.
and yet still we have leaking pipes and so on and so forth. It's not good enough.
Well,
now, I'm just going to
yes.
quickly do something here.
Okay.
Mr. Fact Checker, who's half asleep, Mr. Dwayne. Hey, can you look up how much Watercorp earned last year for us, just so we can get the exact figure for the Honourable Charles Smith? It just seems 800 million. That's a lot of money.
It sure is. And that shows you how much overcharging is going on.
Oh, that's right. Because this is an entity that's not there. Theoretically, it's not supposed to be there to make a profit.
Sure, it's
not
making
a
money for
business.
the government. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's there to serve the community. So therefore, they should, quite frankly, be breaking even at best.
Well, it
That's
should
where they
be refunded back to the taxpayer, right?
Imagine that. Oh, look. If that money, if that is, and it is a profit, it's not a surplus in my opinion, then yes, it should be going back into infrastructure or whatever the case may be that is looking after West Australians.
Sure.
But in my absolute eyes, it shouldn't be making a profit at all. It should be very, very a net zero sort of situation because we're clearly paying too much. If it's making a profit of $800 million, nearly $1 billion, right? I mean, that's almost enough to run an ABC. Let's not get started on that one.
10 points there, Aaron.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, let's go on.
And do you want to talk about other bills like gas bills and so on? I mean, I think it's important for people to know out there how the gas market operates in Western Australia. So Western Australia is the only state to have a gas reservation policy, right? That means a certain percentage of gas produced is grabbed for our domestic market. I think currently we have a 15% reservation policy, which means the companies are obliged to stick 15% of their gas into our domestic system.
Right.
The idea being it provides security of supply, and that supply, the idea being, keeps prices low. And what I would like to see is an increase in that reservation policy, so we flood our market with big supply. And hopefully the law of economics works, and that will force down prices. Right?
Okay. Now, let me ask this then. If that's the case, though, what about the profits that we would, invert the fingers here and the commas as well, the profit that we would lose with export sales?
For private companies, I think private companies make incredible amounts of money from West Australian resources.
Yep.
I think as a state, the people of the state get a bum deal from our own mineral wealth. I think that needs to be reviewed by somebody with a set.
Yep.
Quite honestly. Everyone runs scared from the resource companies.
And there's the truth. I mean, look, and that's the problem with so much in government, is there are so many people that they're just after their self-interest and they're not, coming in there, representing the community and growing a pair. Honestly, that's really what it comes down to.
And if you cast your minds back to the last state election, we had a guy called Brendan Grills who attempted to increase royalty rates in iron ore.
Right.
And the big companies, through the Chamber of Minerals and Energy, threw a couple of $1 million into a campaign to get rid of him.
Yep.
Right? And that kind of interference in our democratic process, I think, is unacceptable.
Well, interesting. There's been, I'm personally involved with a interference with the process of government that I won't talk about here, but I might talk about in the future. We're going to wait for a couple of things to be sorted first, and a little legal advice.
Conspiracy corner.
You never know.
Now, I do have a quick question in regards to the gas. I forget what you call it.
Gas reservation.
Gas reservations. I remember reading an article, this was about 18 months ago, that Australia was importing insane amounts of LPG gas from Japan because we didn't have enough for ourselves.
Right. So that is really, I think, referring to the eastern states markets, which are all screwed up. Right,
Okay.
Their gas markets are in complete disarray.
Why aren't they ordering it from us?
They're buying gas from Japanese markets at silly global rates and then importing it back into Australia, into the eastern states pipeline system. Over here in WA, it's slightly different. We have that reservation policy which guarantees that continuity of supply, which they don't have over there. I think Australia as a whole, country, really needs a gas reservation policy.
Well, shouldn't we be buying
because
from
who does it belong
ourselves
to, right?
first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as that. The East should be buying from the West.
Exactly.
Very simple.
Australian owned, Australian owned, purchased and Australian made. Wasn't that the big motto to, kickstart the economy? Well, I'd love to know how much gas Australia... Hey, Dwayne, can you work out how much, or Google, how much gas is imported into Australia? Hang on, we've got a smile, a bit of a confusion. No, he's good. He's onto it. I can see his little fingers firing away.
It is a very complex market, the gas market.
Of course,
you need to understand
nothing's
that.
simple. Let's face it.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the refinery? The refineries closing down in Kwinana?
I think it's a real shame. I asked questions to the Premier in Parliament about it, and when did they know? What did they do about it? Did they offer any assistance to that refinery? And I think it's just they've showed no interest as far as I can see, and they've just let it go. Wow. I think it's incredible.
So that is such an important, employer down there. Simple as that. And those workers need to be protected. I'm not saying at any cost. Obviously, things have got to be viable, but that's what we have government there to do. They're supposed to, be there to, have business to be put in a position where they're viable, but at the same time protect jobs.
Sure. I mean, I think that the real problem is as I understand it, the oil which is produced in Western Australia now has to be sent offshore to be refined and processed and then sent back here to Western Australia.
Absolutely.
Charging a massive cost.
And it throws my mind into absolutely disarray when I think about what Labor Party is supposed to represent the common man, theoretically. And now it's a latte sipping lefty loonies as far as I'm concerned. But if you're looking after the common man, if you've got these seats, in these Labor heartlands, you should be looking after those people. That is exactly what the entire thing was founded on. Kwinana and Rockingham and that entire region, so much of the employment's wrapped up there, and all the associated things that are linked to it. Absolutely disgusts me.
Sure,
I think the government have really dropped the ball.
I think the Labor Party only on a federal level, and certainly here in Western Australia, have sort of embraced the doctrine of globalisation, which is something I will always fight against. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So one thing that I've been hassled quite a lot before, and this is from a group called the Fish Army down in the Rockingham area. Okay. So they've raised a bit of a theory that I've seen on their Facebook. So if you want to look them up, Fish Army, hilarious guys. They love their fishing. They've got running around a bit of a theory that the whole reason the Kwinana refinery and a whole heap of other businesses got shut down there is because it's making way for the Kwinana Outer Harbour, which hasn't even passed EPA approval yet. Ooh,
well, that's something. That's something the McGowan government appear to want to proceed with, right? Fremantle Harbour, I understand, can go on for another 20 odd years before reaching max capacity in terms of shipping. So obviously there is political pressure to do something in that outer harbour. Well,
look, Row 8 was a big part of how they got elected. Let's face it. I mean, to me, look, I haven't looked at all the EPA details and so forth, so I might be speaking out of school here. But to me, quite frankly, I would have liked to have seen that. I want that harbour to be built. I see a lot of positives. In my mind, I think that the infrastructure's there, the road's there, for getting the trucks out and that kind of thing. I would like, and again, I don't know, I'm not across it all, but I would like to see Fremantle re-establish itself as a hub for tourism, bringing, cruise ships probably not at the moment, but longer term.
COVID ships.
Yes, COVID ships, exactly. But looking after that side of things and reinvigorate all that tourism that we had there years ago. And I think by taking that part of the port down there, as I say, you won't have all the issues with the traffic. You won't have the trucks, on Canning Highway, Leach Highway, and all those dramas that are coming from it. I am personally concerned that so many things in Australia, full stop, get screwed around with the interests of developers and so forth, all that kind of carry on, and contractors, that kind of thing, with the politics at all, but lots and lots of bullshit green tape.
Well, the biggest problem is, especially the green tape, is it slows down a lot of businesses forming, slows down getting job reductions, and it's just unneeded for a lot of the stuff. And we'll discuss that with do we even call her honourable now that she's a councillor of Perth, Di Baines, about the helicopters in Swan River?
I don't know. Well, yeah, Di has her own helicopter. I mean, I had to drive in like a, regular folk.
A pleb, yeah.
Yeah, a pleb, thank you. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. You're not yet one of the elite, Aaron.
Oh, and I never will be, thankfully.
All right, so I'm going to call this one here because we do need to get into a couple of messages and get a couple of more songs in there. Okay. So we do have the Honourable Charles Smith in here with us, Aaron Malloy and Travis Carter for Carter's Corner. And don't forget, you can message in on 0418 897 897 if you got a question for Charlie. Talk soon. Carter's Corner is back again, saving the night. Eagle Black Cherry, I actually really like it. Travis Carter here. Aaron Malloy across the desk from me, and the Honourable Charles Smith, all the way from Parliament House,
Hi.
stinking up the place to high heaven. No, before you run, because he's got a bail on us out 7, Liberal Party, absolutely terrible. No response from him, no fight back with Mark McGowan. Is it time to bring back Ned Flanders?
Well, look, I understand Mike is retiring from Parliament, so there's no coming back for him. However, I would somewhat agree, yes. The Liberal Party face a few headwinds, right? The first one is the West Australian newspaper, Channel 7, will not give them any coverage. Right? They have been cancelled by Channel 7. That's the first problem, right? Same as me, cancelled. The second problem, which is more fundamental, is the party itself needs to become much more aggressive in its opposition, which I think they are now learning, albeit somewhat too late in the day to save them at this particular election. So they need new people, they need new skin in the game, they need to wake up a bit and remember what they stand for, some principles, some good policy ideas, and really run with it. At the moment, nothing is happening.
Now, I want to cut in on that. Okay. Now, you're talking about the fact that they can't get a run on Channel 7 or anything associated with Channel 7?
In a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, who owns Channel 7?
Channel 7 is owned by the Kerry Stokes empire.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. So could there be a little political motivation behind it, do you think?
Well, look, Aaron, you may very well say that, my friend, but I couldn't possibly comment, of course.
Of course
no,
you wouldn't.
Look, of course there is. Everything is political.
Of course it is.
People like Stokes and so on are not supporting the Liberal Party right now for whatever reasons they have, and they're throwing their support behind the Labor Party. That is very, very obvious to any observer.
Now, we have this cancel culture going on, and this is an absolutely massive problem, let's face it. Our mainstream media, I mean, this is a big part of why this show exists, because we leave all that crap behind. This is a place where that, is thrown out the door. We can talk about the issues and we can actually tell the truth without being cancelled. Now, that's great for us, but with an entity as big as Channel 7 and the newspapers attached to it and all that kind of carry on, that's a lot of power. And if it's being used to control and steer the voters politically, that's just wrong. And I think we've seen a pretty good example of that just recently. I don't know if you noticed that there's an election in the US had a little bit of press that may have interfered a touch.
It was very honest recording in there.
Absolutely.
But quickly, because we are coming up to the hour, final thoughts for Charlie. What was the last thing that the Liberal Party actually stood for and opposed Labor in?
In terms of the legislation through the Parliament?
Absolutely anything, because as far as I know, especially what's being reported, there's absolutely nothing that they're standing for at the moment.
What I've observed in the last 4 years of this Parliament is the Liberal Party criticising heavily the legislation that comes through and showing how bad it is and how it won't work, but yet at the end of the day, they will vote for it nonetheless. Now, for me, I think there is some sort of unwritten rule that the major parties will just, at the end of the day, cooperate with each other, right?
Yep.
They can criticise, but at the end of the day, they help each other. And they just wait till it's their turn to form government. It's like a game. And the people who lose from this game are you and I, the everyday tax-paying people.
I think that explains why we need a lot more minor parties to represent the real people to try and get the political elite out.
I would certainly encourage people to start voting for what I call anti-establishment parties. We really need to take the fight to these people and remind them that they govern on our behalf, not for their own self-interest and their corporate buddies.
Theoretically, they are supposed to represent the people. And that has not happened for a very, very, very long time.
Correct.
I think the last time they did it was like 1901.
Can I just tell you as well, from my experience in this Parliament, that the major parties, Labor, because we have a Labor government, they do not make policy in the best interest of people. No. What they do is make policy in the best interests of their corporate donors, and that is a significant problem in our democracy.
Wouldn't it be good to see all donors, a limit to the financial, amount that they can put forward? And obviously there's transparency and all that sort of carry on. But at the same time, I mean, let's be frank. So many of these politicians are owned. Simple as that. we need to, and what government is possibly going to change the policy? What are they going to do to change the rules that would effectively hurt them? It's not going to happen. That's the problem.
There are rules and regulations in place for how people, how parties get donations, who they're from, what declarations have to be made. But of course, there are ways and means of circumventing these regulations.
Exactly.
And they know that.
Now, I do have to cut it there because it is now 7 o'clock on the dot. We do have another special guest just on the phone. I want to bring him in a little bit earlier, but this conversation was going very, very well. Mr. Topher Field, all the way from Victoria, welcome to the radio. Topher, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. So, Charlie, Topher, Charlie.
Hello, mate. How you going?
So, Charlie's got a bail
good
right
to meet you.
now. So, I wanted to get Topher in just before we head to the next set of songs. So, we really, really want to start talking about the Murray-Darling Basin Authority and how poorly they're doing, because everyone seems to be lost in this COVID things. Just before Charlie goes, Topher, as an experienced journalist and everything else that you do you have any questions for Charlie before he bails?
Look, not just at this moment. It's actually the first time meeting Charlie, and unfortunately I wasn't able to hear what you were discussing just up until this moment in time. So, Charlie, great to make your acquaintance.
Mate,
and
we're just saying how corrupt.
We
were just saying how corrupt the major parties are.
Oh, well, okay. On that point, I wholeheartedly agree, and we're certainly going to be discussing some of that going forward. And you only need to look at how hard they are working to keep things like the registry of the history of water ownership, to try and keep that secret. That tells you very clearly that there's a lot of people in both the major parties that have a lot to hide.
There's a lot of right out there. So anyway, we do have to go to a quick ad. A quick song as per our requirements. So this is Carter's Corner. We will be back very, very shortly.